Hello, Degens! Welcome to Degenerate Takes Weekend Update. I, of course, am the Brofix one, AJ, and joining me, as always, is the man with the numbers, the sportsbook whisperer, the college basketball guru, the daddy of the diamond, Mr. Noah Engelbretson, the money train. Noah, how the hell you doing today, bub?
I'm doing great. It's been craziness with all the action on the MLB trade deadline coming up, I believe 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So a lot of movement. I'm sure we'll see a lot more. And curious to see where people land.
Noah, that's been wild. The NFL is in full swing and has been getting wild. The PGA's been wild as we're wrapping up that season. I mean, bro, we're in after that lull period of 2 weeks and beginning of July. We're finally back in the swing of it, and I am beyond stoked for what this season and what these ends are going to be. But unfortunately, we do need to start off this show on a more sad note. Over the weekend, Boston Celtics legend, I mean, absolute legend of a player, Bill Russell, dies at the age of 88. He was an 11-time NBA champion, just a stand-up guy, incredible on defense. Yeah, thoughts and prayers to the family out there. Bill, thank you so much for the memories. Noah, you mentioned a really cool stat at the end of right before we went on air. I can't remember it for the life of me because I have ADHD. But what do you think? What was that stat again?
Oh, it was just something I saw that was pretty crazy. The fact that Bill Russell is 21-0 in elimination games between, I think, college Olympics and the NBA, that's just pretty crazy right there. Absolute
Jeez.
clutch gene. Absolute definition of a winner on and off the court. Um, yeah,
Wow.
rest in peace to Bill Russell. Lost a legend.
Lost a legend. Thank you for the memories. As Noah said, rest in peace. But Noah, after that, PGA went off this weekend. It was a big golf weekend in general with Live as well. You can catch up my other videos about Live. Probably floating around up here. No, I've been getting good at editing, so we're on the right track there. We're looking more professional every day. But let's go ahead and talk about the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Tony Finau obviously taking it. Minus 26 to win the whole thing. Cantley behind him at minus 21 with Pendrith there as well, and Young, and then Jaeger to go ahead and wrap up that top fifth spot. Noah, what did you see this weekend? What did you like this weekend? I mean, yet again, you, another Sunday morning text, AJ slammed this, and we slammed it. Damn it, brother, and it hit again. Shout out Tony Finau going back to back. What did you see, Noah? What did you like? And where do we stand in the FedEx Cup, bro?
Yeah, obviously the biggest story is Finau going back to back. I think first time in multiple years that anyone's gone back to back weeks winning. So, you know, big deal with that. Finau jumping all the way up to seventh, I think, in the FedEx Cup standings now with after those two wins. Um, Next biggest thing would be Cam Young, who's playing absolutely lights out. He's playing really well. He jumped up to ninth. Patrick Cantley jumping over Rory McIlroy into fifth, and and you got Zalatoris and Homa falling out of the top 10. That's probably the extent of the important big movers with that. It'll be interesting to see. I don't think we're going to see a ton of um, players in that top 30 playing this next week, although I did see, I think, Sungjae Im as well as Zalatoris and Sungjae Im are the two biggest names probably competing this next week. A couple other ones sprinkled in there. So it'll be interesting to see. We do start the playoffs, the Wyndham Classic this weekend, starting Thursday, going through Sunday, as they usually do, the last event of the season until we jump into the FedEx Tour playoffs. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see what happens with that.
Yeah, honest to God, it's been a great season for the PGA. A lot of controversy, a lot of trials and tribulations, but finally to go ahead and end it with this epic playoffs coming up here. We have what, one more tournament, and then we're into playoffs, Noah.
Correct. Yeah, this the Wyndham Classic this weekend, which I'm sure we'll probably be covering.
Of course.
Um, yeah, this is the last one before the FedEx playoffs start.
All right, sweet. You love to hear that. Can't wait for it to come. Any other thoughts on the PGA and golf in general before we get into the nitty gritty of next?
Yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, I guess the only thing I saw, Stenson ended up winning the live event, his first live event, and ends up taking it. Still not the captain of the Ryder Cup team anymore,
Nope.
but at least he got a dub there.
Got a dub there and a really nice paycheck. So shout out to him for winning that. If you want full recap of this Live Golf Bedminster, it's up there around there somewhere. Go ahead and take a look. But Noah, let's get into it. NFL has been a buzz since training camps have opened. People have been signed, but most importantly, the biggest piece of news over the last year and a half finally coming, well, maybe coming to an end as we finally get the ruling from the judge, Sue Robinson, who is in charge of the investigation for Deshaun Watson. She has come out with her final ruling saying that it should be a 6-game suspension. Now, this is the final thing, right? No, it's all done. It's all done and dandy, right? He's gone for 6 games. We'll see him week 7 against the Ravens.
Maybe. We'll see. The NFL does have 3 days to appeal the decision. Buzz is that the NFL will likely appeal this decision. They were hoping for, and I don't know if it was the NFL actually hoping for it or if it's just, they want the appearance of hoping for a full year. But either way, I wouldn't be surprised to see this extended past the 6 games. Who knows? It could stay at the 6. The NFL hasn't even, formally appealed the decision yet. So there's, this isn't final.
No.
Obviously it's all anybody's been talking about all day today, but I don't think it's that newsworthy because I don't think this is going to be the final number.
No, absolutely not. And I hope it is. I hope it is just because I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of hearing about it. I want to get back to football because let's be real. Let's say the 6 games does stand. Okay, let's say the NFL doesn't want to drag this on even further and keep bringing this story up and making it the only thing we can talk about during training camp. I'm ready for it to be over, and I'm looking forward to that Week 7 start at Baltimore Ravens for Deshaun Watson, possibly. Jacoby Brissett will have a tough route in the first 6 games to hopefully put the Browns in a position that they can just win a couple more and go into the playoffs. But I don't know. It'll be about a year and a half, a year and 3/4 since he's played a snap of football. Do you think we'll see him in any of these preseason games? We usually don't see starting quarterbacks play a lot, but due to the amount of football he's missed, do you think they'll take advantage of these preseason games to just let him go and see what he can do and get reacclimated to the speed of the game?
I would be shocked. And I do want to point out, AJ, even though he didn't play at all last year, he got paid his full salary.
Oh, I know.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't some people are like, oh, well, it's basically been it's going to be a year and a half suspension. That's not true. If you offered me my, full salary to not work for a year, I would absolutely love that. And I think most people would agree. I don't think anybody would complain about that.
No.
So, yeah, I don't think there's a chance we see him in any of the preseason games, especially with this suspension looming over him.
No, absolutely. He is eligible to continue to practice with the team until it is down to the 53-man roster, and then he will be eligible to report to practice again following that Week 4 game so that he can get reacclimated to the system and everything. Part of the new CBA that was put in, so I don't know. The Players Association did what they had to do there. But talking about players and teams who should be fired up, NFC West went on a spending spree this last weekend, starting with DK Metcalf getting the farm and a little bit extra, becoming one of the highest paid wide receivers in the game. I believe the final deal is $73 million for the next 3 years. Shout out to him getting paid, and I think it shows a little bit of confidence in Pete Carroll and the organization. He doesn't really have a quarterback that's throwing to him right now. Pete Carroll says Geno Smith is in the lead when it comes to the quarterback competition. I don't know how bad that is. But Noah, I mean, shout out to DK. He got paid. I mean, I hated seeing him in a Seahawks jersey with Russell Wilson whenever he played the Cardinals because he was bound to make Budda Baker look like a slow piece of shit, even though he's one of the fastest guys on the field. But I mean, overall, Noah, what do you think of this? And do you think this is going to really help the Seahawks? Or do you think the Seahawks are doing a little tampering like don't worry, DK. We're getting CJ Stroud #1 overall after we tank this year. Let's just re-sign you, get that money, and get this rookie quarterback in.
No, they just paid him because their roster is so shit that they have the money laying around that they can afford to pay him, and it doesn't really matter. Like it was. I mean, they had two options. It was pay him or trade him, and they decided to pay him. So I don't think it does anything much. I mean, they would have been shittier without him, I guess, but they're still going to be shitty. So I don't really care about that move necessarily. It's only a 3-year contract. The bigger news by far is Debo getting pretty much almost an identical contract. I think 0.1 million less. So I think his contract about 100,000 less than DK's, which I'm surprised it was not, the other way around. But Debo deserved to be paid. Not that DK didn't, but Debo definitely deserved to get that money. And San Francisco would have been foolish to not pay him. It looks like maybe the bad blood is gone a little bit with Debo agreeing to sign a 3-year contract there.
Yeah, and honestly, the 49ers had to get it done. You cannot let such a versatile player go when you have a rookie quarterback coming in under center. I get it. Trey Lance isn't a rookie anymore. It's technically his sophomore year, but for him taking the snaps all 17 games this season, you needed a guy like Debo to be his safety net. Not saying George Kittle couldn't be a safety net as well, but having a guy that can do what he can in the backfield. I don't know if you saw it, Noah, but there are incentives if he does running back plays, so rushing touchdowns, rushing yards, etc., etc. So he definitely will still be used in that running back role. I do think it'll be a little bit more conservative, but I mean, as long as Deebo Samuels is on the field, Trey Lance is pretty much guaranteed to have one guy open, whether it's whether it's Kittle or Deebo, right?
Maybe. I don't want to come off like I'm sounding like I'm shit talking George Kittle. Like, he's great. Overall, like, he's one of the best tight ends in the league. I would put him top 3 as an overall skill set. Like, his blocking, his catching, his run after the catch, all really, really good. His route running, however, can be really sloppy at times. So I don't know that he's always the most open. That would be my one big knock on Kittle. So I don't know that I fully agree with the statement that Debo or Kittle are going to be open all the time. But if you do get the ball to Kittle, he's a menace after he gets it.
Fair enough. I'll give you that.
But Debo, on the other hand, I mean, I would argue that he might be the worst nightmare for a defensive coordinator out of any skill position player in the entire league, just because of how versatile he is. I just can't even imagine trying to have to game plan for Debo Samuel.
No, because he's in the backfield. What's he going to do? Is he going to just run a fucking streak up the middle and burn everybody? Is he going to get the ball handed off to the outside? I mean, shit, is he just going to dive head first into the pile and just break through everything? He's so versatile. Shout out to him for getting paid the money he was deserved, and shout out to the 49ers for keeping an absolute dog on the roster. Just a little bit of cleanup news because it was reported and it does affect my Cardinals directly. Kyler Murray and Pete Carroll both test positive for COVID-19 and will miss the next 5 days of training camp. Per the NFL, they are not testing for it anymore, but if it is found that someone has COVID or it's self-reported, they do need to go through standard protocols of 5 days away from the team. Personally, as someone who went to the Cardinals training camp today and didn't see #1 in what a $300 million throw looks like, it was obviously disappointing, but also disappointing for the team in general. You know what I mean? This was going to be a good week for Kyler Murray to really stand up and show he is the leader of that squad and worth what he is getting paid and start taking that step in the right direction to really rebuild the trust with Cardinals fans. Obviously, he's sick, can't really do anything about it, but just disappointing in general. Noah, do you have any thoughts about that?
I mean, he'll be back next week.
Yeah.
I guess you lose a week, which for a young quarterback is probably important. But you know how I feel about Cliff Kingsbury and his fucking shit show that he runs there anyways. So I mean, yeah, maybe it makes a little bit of a difference, but not enough that I care to pay any attention to it. Maybe I would if I were a Cardinals fan, but
fair enough.
Otherwise, I think it's pretty insignificant.
I get it. I do just want to say one more thing about the Cardinals. J.J. Watt is ready, bro. Like, dude, he was just pumped the entire session, he was ready to go, fully engaged, teaching the kids. I mean, he's going to be unstoppable this year. Probably take J.J. Watt over on sacks probably throughout the season. But
I wouldn't. I mean, he can't stay healthy for a whole
true,
season.
that's
So
true. He can't do anything to stay healthy. But Noah, training camp is in full swing, and that means preseason games are right around the corner. They are so right around the corner, Noah. We got one coming up this Thursday. We got Thursday night football. Raiders and the Jaguars in the Hall of Fame game to kick the season off officially. Opens up with the Raiders as a -1. It's moved to a pick 'em now with the total being at 32.5, right, Noah?
30.5, I believe.
30.5. Shit, that's pretty tight. I mean, obviously, it's a preseason game. Not going to see a lot of the starters. Probably not going to see some starting quarterbacks. But what are you thinking, bro? I mean, obviously, we're going to gamble on the game because it's the first NFL game we can gamble on since the Super Bowl. But what are you leaning on this way? And yeah, man. I mean, football is back, bro. Let's go.
I'm banking on the boringness. Like, I hate to say that, but I'm liking the under 30.5. And I think I'm going to go with the Jaguars on the money line here with it being a pick 'em, just because I think the Jaguars are going to play up more into their roster. They're a lot younger of a team. I think they're going to have more guys they want to get some snaps and experience, even if that might only be a quarter. Whereas like the Raiders, I expect guys like, Renfro and Adams and Derek Carr and Darren Waller and even Josh Jacobs and some of those guys I expect to not even get a single snap, not play at all. They might not even dress in pads for this game. So that's why I think, just out of necessity with a young team like the Jaguars, I think the players that the Jaguars have out there versus the Raiders are going to be slightly more talented. So we'll see.
I could see it. I could also see a situation. You got me there. I was ready to take the Raiders all the way.
It is preseason.
It is
preseason.
Throw
all conventional knowledge out the window.
So then, let me take Trevor Lawrence and the boys, hopefully playing one too many snaps and, securing a solid lead and then it being boring as shit. No, I'm going to have to ride with the Jaguars and the under with you. Last 2 years, the score has barely gotten above 20, and so I'm counting on that to happen again. 30.5, yeah, shit. Let's take the under and the Jaguars. That'd be a nice little parlay there to get the NFL season officially started with some preseason action. Hell yeah, Noah. Anything else to say on the NFL before we move on to the craziness that is the trade deadline?
No, I'm just going to keep an eye on training camp and everything. I did see, just because obviously I'm paying attention to Packers training camp. I loved it. Apparently special teams was a big focus today. And I guess there was, punt team broke the huddle too slow, and Rich Bisaccia ran from 30 yards away down the field screaming at them, made them go back into the huddle and break faster. So I think Packers special teams woes might be gone this season. Finally, it's been over a decade since we've had a decent special teams unit. So
yeah, well,
I love at the very least, I love the intensity from Rich Bisaccia running. And he's not young. He's no spring chicken, and he apparently went sprinting 30 yards just to scream his head off at the special teams unit for not breaking the huddle fast enough.
Well, bro, I promise you they will never break the huddle slow again after that. So shout out. Hopefully the Packers special teams aren't an absolute embarrassment again. Be nice for you guys to be competent going into the playoffs one time and not have a weak spot. So let's see if you guys can actually do that this season. But playoffs are so far away when it comes to the NFL, but it's close when you talk about the MLB. Couple months left in the season, and that means the trade deadline is coming close, as Noah said, 6:30 tomorrow. And
I think 6 Eastern tomorrow.
6 Eastern tomorrow, sorry. These time zones really F me up, me being on the West Coast. I don't even know which coast I'm on. But shit, dude, everything's been happening left, right, center. Some teams are getting better, some teams are getting worse. What's going on, Noah? Hit me. What's going on in the trade deadline, bro?
Couple big moves today. I'll probably start with the biggest one of all, at least in my opinion. Josh Hader of the Milwaukee Brewers their star closer, one of the better closers in the league. His numbers haven't been quite as good the last 2 seasons as they were 3 years ago, but still very competent. He's a guy you want on your roster. Strikeout rate is still incredibly high, almost 2 per inning. Yeah, he got traded to the Padres. So Padres adding Josh Hader. Interesting to see 2 teams both in playoff contention making a trade with each other, especially both in the National League. So that one really opened my eyes. Had the Yankees adding Frankie Montas and another pitcher from the A's in a trade. Trey Mancini going to the Astros. That was another big move today. And I'm sure we're going to see some more tomorrow. Angels not trading Shohei Ohtani. I'm not surprised by that at all.
No.
And then obviously Juan Soto. We still got to figure out what happens there. That'll be really interesting. I think potentially, obviously the Padres are, I think, the favorite by a slim margin. Dodgers and Yankees are in the talks just because they have the capital to do so. I don't know that either of those teams necessarily need Juan Soto, but obviously if you can add Juan Soto, you want to. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with that and where he ends up. Or if there's been some buzz starting today that people are speculating there might be a chance he doesn't get traded, which would be absolutely crazy.
I could totally see this ending up being one of those KD situations. He never formally requested it. Juan Soto never formally requested a trade, but he did say, I don't want to take that 15-year, $400 million deal. That's crazy. Which it is absolutely crazy how many years they wanted to put on that contract. But I don't see him moving. I really don't see any teams that, all of the teams that are up there in the upper echelon right now, I think are really solid with their teams. They would need to give up too much capital in order to get Juan Soto this season. And those mid-tier teams, I don't think they want to sell their barn for just, one guy because they know it takes a team and they're playing a little bit more money ball. And then us teams like the Diamondbacks who are on the absolute shit end of the scale. We don't have a shot at Juan Soto because none of our owners would open up their pocketbook for him. I truly think he is going to stay a national for the rest of the season. And we'll see what happens in the offseason. I do not see him moving anytime soon.
Yeah, I disagree. I think he still will get traded. I don't know. I mean, I could see him not getting traded, but I still lean towards that trade happening. Somebody's going to give up somebody who's trying to win a World Series this year, and in the next couple of years is going to give up some ridiculous trade capital for him, which is why there's only 4 teams in this race for Juan Soto, being the 2 New York teams. The Dodgers and kind of the Padres is about the extent of that. I mean, there's maybe a chance somebody else could work up some sweet deal for him, but yeah, the options are limited, and it's the same thing we always see at the MLB. You get the best players going to the richest teams, and I should say it's not all about money, though. You look at the Dodgers and the Yankees, and even though they are the top 2 teams in payroll every single year, what they do that really sets them apart, because the Cubs aren't super far off, or the Mets haven't been super far off payroll wise. It's just they do such a good job at scouting and building up their farm system that they can execute all these trades year in and year out. And it helps that they have the safety net that money's not an issue. So you put those 2 things together, and that's why those 2 teams stay on top. And it's really annoying. But I think a common misconception is people think it's all about money, which it's not. It's also about they've got all the right pieces in their organizations with all the scouting and drafting and all that.
Absolutely.
So put
and that's
the 2 together.
Fair enough, no. And I mean, that is why the Diamondbacks trade away every young person we ever get, especially out of our farm system. We're supposed to have one of the best farm systems in the league, and we probably do, but we just can't get anything for it because we can't have the capital to back it up. So I totally agree with you, but let's be real. Money does play a nice factor into it.
It's 2 things like that. That's why I said, and obviously the Cubs, winning the World Series in 2016, Good for them. They got it done, and then immediately went back to being not very good. And the Cubs routinely spend in the top 5 of the MLB almost every year. Yet, they don't have the capital to make these same trades that the Yankees and Dodgers routinely do.
Unfortunately, I 100% agree, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with Soto. We'll obviously keep a nice eye on that. Noah, is there anything else you're keeping an eye on, or anything else you want to say to the Degens before we sign off for today?
Well, yeah, probably the one other big name I'm waiting to see what happens. I think it's 50-50 whether or not he gets traded. Is Wilson Contreras of the Cubs?
Okay, where do you think he's going?
Well, I have no idea because he's not going to command the same price tag that Juan Soto would. So there's a lot more teams that are in, that could feasibly make a trade for Contreras. And it's interesting because a lot of the teams in playoff contention don't really need a catcher from the defensive standpoint of things. So I do think if he does get traded, he's just going to be in that DH slot more than he's actually playing catcher, which is probably a good thing, if you just let him hit and not worry about, playing any defense. Not that his defense is bad. He's a great catcher. But like I said, teams in contention don't really need a catcher. So teams that would make a trade for Contreras are somebody who maybe needs an extra bat, fill in that DH slot, improve your batting lineup.
I could definitely see it. I mean, and who wouldn't like him? He's a hell of a ball player, and like you said, a great hitter. But he probably wouldn't mind taking the rest of the season off of his knees if he doesn't have to catch, But shit, yeah. I mean, that's the weekend update. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe down below. It's right there. Help us fight that YouTube algorithm. And of course, follow us on the Twitter, the show at Degen Takes, myself at Brofict1, and that guy at N_Engelbretson or Engel Money Train if you want all of the locks and picks of the day. Noah's been on absolute fire lately. Noah, have you done the July analytics yet? Do we know how you did in July?
No, I gotta run through all the numbers.
All right,
but I will. I'll be doing that in the next day or two, and we'll have those July statistics out, record and units. That's what I need. I mean, record I could go through, and it's pretty easy. But the units is what I need to go through and add up.
Hell yeah! Well, even a better reason to follow him at Engel Money Train to see what he did last month. I know we were up units, so can't wait to see how many we were up. But yeah. With that being said, we'll be back later this week with more Degenerate takes and action, probably covering the PGA, as we do have another event this weekend. Look for those bets to drop on Wednesday. And yeah, with that being said, that's been the Money Train Noah. I've been the Brofict1 AJ, and we'll see you next time on Degenerate Takes.